Boom, we are live, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for joining us today. Another beautiful one out here in the jungles of Costa Rica. Hope you're enjoying all the green as much as I do. We've got a few small things to go over today. Perhaps I just liked pain and wanted to see how how difficult it was to do another live stream, but here we are. We are alive and currently letting everything go forward here. So I want to start off by taking a look at a little bit of news in the ecosystem. SBF today received 25 years in prison. Probably not enough for stealing billions of dollars from people and cultivating one of the biggest Ponzi schemes in history. I feel pretty confident that this guy and his family are just some sort of CIA front job setup, that FTX was really just there to launder money for the CIA in the background. And he's just kind of like a prop shop boy, had nothing really to do with anything. And they'll probably only end up maybe a few years in jail for what he's done before they take him out of there and put him somewhere else under house arrest. So sadly, I don't think enough time for this curly-haired person here. But who am I to say? I mean, really, I don't wish jail time to anyone, but this fucker, he probably deserves it. I don't remember what Bernie Madoff got, but it was 100-something years. Sam probably deserves a hell of a lot more as well. It says, when Judge Lewis Kaplan, who oversaw the month-long trial in November, sentenced SBF to 25 years in prison, it marked a new chapter in the ongoing debate as to what would be fitting prison term for his total crimes. Last fall, SBF was found guilty of several illegal activities, including fraud, money laundering, fraud, and conspiracy. I like how, securities fraud. I was like, fraud twice, 2 times fraud. He had a leveraged fraud trade going on. He was frauding one people while frauding multiple other people. I think there should be more levels of fraud here. Here we go. He was convicted on 7 counts of fraud and conspiracy, stealing from his customers, and the cryptocurrency exchange FTX eventually collapsed. He was also directed to his co-conspirators to commit crimes, leading to multiple charges. His childlike appearance and demeanor aside, the prosecution rightly portrayed him as a grown-ass man, which he was, involved in criminal financial fraud, and highlighted his involvement in fraudulent activities that resulted in massive losses for other people. Yeah, that's always a tough one. If you're going to commit fraud, just get away with it. I don't know. Anyways, Bad Boy Sam is sentenced to 25 years, but I doubt that's what he'll get. In more exciting terms, some of you dropped this yesterday. Didn't share it yesterday, but one of our favorite AI tokens is now merging with Ocean and AGIX at an estimated $7.6 billion between the 3 total tokens. So if you own any one of these, you will basically be redistributed the new ASI, or Artificial Superintelligence Alliance token. It's a little bit of a Artificial Superintelligence Alliance. That's a pretty dumb fucking name. But anyways, ASI token will be what you will be dropped if you are a holder of any of these 3 as they merge together. Again, just a quick little read down here. The world's first decentralized artificial intelligence network, Fetch AI, and Web3 platform for the new AI economy, Ocean Protocol, and decentralized data exchange platform to protect data have launched an Artificial Superintelligence Alliance. It sounds like 5-year-olds came up with that name. The creation of the largest open source decentralized network through the multi-billion-dollar token merger is a major step that accelerates the race to artificial general intelligence. Now, I don't really know if we want to be accelerating the race to AGI. Actually, this might be a good time to kind of watch something I had bookmarked the other day, but I don't really know if we want to accelerate AGI by any particular means. I really don't think people know what they're getting themselves into. AI is on the verge of being smarter than most people. So to kind of go over some of that, let's take a look at this.
The ability to predict the future, I think, becomes a lot harder because the rate of change is so great. But I think some things are fairly obvious to predict, which is that we'll have AI or AGI that's at a level that it can really do almost any cognitive, I think really not almost, really any cognitive task. It's just a question of when. One could debate, is it, smarter than any human at the end of next year, or is it 2 years or 3 years? But it's not more than 5 years, that's for sure. I think it's probably end of next year before AI can do better than any individual human could do. And then
So
it's a much higher.
to hear Musk say in about a year AI can do better than almost any individual can do should be a shockwave. Now, we've kind of talked about some of this in the past, but AI is going to be extraordinarily deflationary. And again, that puts an interesting conversation around how far can inflation take us before we hit a hyperinflationary space, especially with excess deaths rising. There's less people spending all that money. Perhaps they can flood the capital with more market than we expected. Now, part of me wanted to lean into the idea that we might see hyperinflation soon, like this year, but it seems very unlikely that we will see hyperinflation come in this quickly. But what I do believe is that we're actually witnessing it real time. I made a post this morning talking about how when the stock market is going up, it's not that the stock market is more valuable, but the US dollar is less valuable. That because of all the money printing, the $1.2 trillion in stimulus spending, these are all reflections of the government inflating the monetary supply. And that will then inherently inflate all asset prices first and consumer products last. So over the last 30 to 40 years, house prices have appeared to be rising and rising and rising. But is it the house that's more valuable, or that the dollar is worth less? And it's most likely option B, that the dollar is actually just worth less. So the best way to look at this, I'm going to actually let Musk here finish this sentiment because I thought it was really interesting.
Probably 2029 or maybe 2030 is where digital intelligence will probably exceed all human intelligence combined.
Okay, so let that sink in. Potentially by 2030, artificial intelligence will have surpassed all human intelligence combined. Now, I don't know a whole lot about technology, just a person who likes to sit out in the jungle, watch stars, and eat mushrooms. I couldn't build AI if I needed to. Glad I can play around with it. But that is a stunning reflection to take in. AI could be more intelligent than all combined human intelligence by 2030. Now, we've talked about this massive move towards inflation in 2030 and prices of Bitcoin soaring into the millions of dollars by 2030. But again, we don't know what type of black swan is represented by a computer being smarter than literally fucking everybody, or what that does. We really don't know. I don't think we can comprehend what it means until we get there. For instance, the cell phone I have in my hand, when I was like 15 years old, I remember writing like boobs on a calculator from 800811355 and thinking this shit was amazing. Our technology is so hype, bro. We got calculators. We don't even need to do math in our heads no more. And now I've got satellite internet, fiber optic internet. I could take 4K video with my phone. It accelerates so quickly, it's very hard to comprehend. And I think what Musk has pointed out there is that if we are moving towards some artificial superintelligence alliance, it's actually a little bit more worrying than we can imagine, because we don't know what that means for the human species. And it may be the end of us. It may be the beginning of something new as well. But more importantly, I thought that might be worth going over, considering we were talking about AGI this morning. So just as a kind of a quick finish to our first little news segment, the alliance is the brainchild of Dr. Ben Gortzel. Now, the father of AGI there is a little bit convoluted. That's not totally true. He was working on something completely different than the way AGI works today. So I don't know why we would give him this renown as the father of AGI. That's actually bullshit. So whoever wrote this on Ocean Protocol is lying. They apparently don't seem to know the first thing. The godfather of neural networks is who they're meant to say, I believe, because that's what a large language model is actually Geoffrey Hinton, not Ben Goertzel. So this is the real godfather of AGI as we know it today. He is most noted for his work on artificial neural networks, not just machine learning. So a little bit of a scuff here by their Ben Goertzel is not the father of AGI. You can't just say that like, oh yeah, we're like it's anyways, it's a little bit of a a misnomer there. Founded SNet as a blockchain-based marketplace for framework for AI services. Now, one of the things that's kind of come up in a few of our most recent conversations is the potential of seeing computation power as a new currency. And we've actually looked at this in the past. For those of you that had followed the channel for some time, we're going to look at another one that we had talked about quite frequently, which was Akash Network. The Akash Network is the ability to buy open compute power from kind of a decentralized marketplace of these. And since April of 2023 here, Akash has gone from 23 cents all the way to $6. That is a massive price increase. That's a 17x almost in the last year here. Huge moves for Akash. But across the board, AI is going to be one of the main key players in the future. Now, when I first started looking at Fetch and sharing those ideas around AI or where it was going, I did not have the ability to touch it the way most people do with GPT-4 now, where you have a pretty active understanding of how powerful this stuff is. In fact, I was going over this. You guys might find this interesting, but I know this has nothing to do with crypto, but I'm trying to finish my sentiment here, so just give me a second if you can. Bear with me while we go through something. So this is Suno.ai. It's kind of fun to check out, but I just wanted to show you the level at which these things have expanded already. So Suno.ai just makes music. Here I've given it a list of things that I wanted it to create. Last night I asked it, I was like some dark hip hop with intense atmospheric sounds. It came with a song called Apocalypse here, wrote lyrics and everything. This is all AI created.
By darkness and despair, we're living like there's no tomorrow care.
So if that wasn't cool enough, it actually made a second version of this as well, a little bit more.
Darkness and despair, we're living like there's no tomorrow.
Now that's incredibly good. Suno gives you a bunch of free credits every day. It's worth checking out. The point I wanted to make here, though, is I remember just a few months ago playing with some of the early AI versions of music creation, and it wasn't very good. It didn't have a lot of quality. This, on the other hand, is next level. And for those of you that have been watching Sora, the new GPT text to chat versions as well, it's made some new videos that are absolutely incredible. This is so deflationary. The cost of producing something as an entrepreneur now is being flushed down the toilet, because you as an individual can basically create whatever you want. Let's say you wanted to create a movie or a podcast or content on YouTube. The ability to download music that you're like, oh, I want a specific type of song for this video that I'm producing. Normally I'd have to pay some company $20 a month to have a library full of content. Here, I can just type in some stuff that I want. I can go create. I'm like, I want a folk song. I want a folk song about the legendary arcane bear and its Bitcoin analysis. Let's see what that does. We'll let it create in the background. We'll come back to this, but anyways, I just wanted to finish off this AI sentiment. There's a lot of room for growth here. I guess that's the main part. I don't need to read the rest of this article. It's cool to see that Ocean, Fetch, and Singularity Net are all collaborating. The reason why I picked Fetch in the first place, again, was not just the potential for compute power being valued as the new currency of the future because AI is so strong, but also the way to cryptographically prove or disprove things. So along that same kind of sentiment line, one of the things I wanted to point out was that we have a very large number of AI deepfakes coming in the future. So just as an example,
because the video below would be AI generated.
So this is from Argil.ai. This is another variation where you can feed it a bunch of videos and it will create videos based off what you give it. So here's a deepfake of Barack Obama.
And you should take care when you watch a video on the internet. See you soon. Some people are losing their mind.
So I think what's important here, and what I thought was really cool about Fetch in the future, kind of my envision of how this would work, is that as cryptographic proofs become more and more valuable, things like Link providing a proof of some kind, what we're going to find is that video data is probably going to have some type of cryptographic proof stamped onto it as well, so that you can tell, is this a real or is this a deep fake video of someone? Because we're getting into kind of dangerous territory for what this stuff can do, and it can do it very quickly, very cheaply, very efficiently. And that's a big difference from where we were when we first started looking at Fetch, which is, if I'm going to be buying some stuff on the internet and I want my cryptographic AI program to go and book me flights, how do I prove to it that it's me? And I think that the merge between crypto and AI, it will probably be more powerful than gaming. I think gaming is what brings the majority of kids online, but AI has just this huge intersection where it's going to need something of a cryptographic proof to be like, this is a real video or this is not. Now, I don't know how we get there. It's just pure speculation by someone who likes to eat mushrooms in the jungle, but these things look to me like you're starting to see that those cross waves of the deflationary power of AI really come into and kind of smash our ecosystem. I also wanted to go over this. CoinGecko has added a new top artificial intelligence coins by market cap at the top here: Render, The Graph, Fetch, BitTensor, Singularity Network, Akash, Ocean Protocol, Golem. There's a whole whack of them here. So if you're interested in learning more around AI and what's going on here, this is probably a really easy page to keep an eye on. You can watch, again, 7-day performance. Fetch has just been performing so powerfully. Over $1 billion in 24-hour volume on Fetch is absolutely insane. Considering, if we go to Fetch and we look at where this market cap was when we first started posting about the videos, it's been a spectacular run here. Let's go for the max data. Here we don't even have the date. All the way back in 2018, 2019, it says a $0 market cap when we first started telling you guys about this. Now, I don't think that's correct. Something's gone wrong here. Okay, let's $30 to $40 million market cap in 2019. That's closer. I think it was at $4 million when we first started posting it in the Arcane Bear to $4 billion. And this is what venture capital looks like. Venture capital looks like going from a $40 million market cap or a $4 million market cap to a $4 billion market cap in just 5 years. Incredible amount of growth in the AI ecosystem, and something really, really, I guess, to behold and witness. Dropping in over to the Bitcoin spot ETFs, taking a look at some more of the data that's coming through here. Just a little bit more on the spot ETF inflows and outflows. Here we go. We can see the last few days up until the 26th of March. On the 18th, a lot of outflow coming from GBTC. Interesting enough to see that FBTC has now taken over the majority of the supply in purchasing. So there are a few times in the last few weeks where FBTC has actually outpaced the IBIT volume, and very, very little volume this last week coming in through IBIT, almost at all, around 488 million on the 18th of March, and then only 162 million on the 26th of March. So 4x difference there. Most of it going through FBTC at the moment. Outflows are continually strong, around 200 million, but we're still, for the most part, exceeding the supply and demand characteristics through the buying power of these ETFs, which itself is pretty incredible. It's definitely been a surprise, and I think we're going to continue to be surprised by Bitcoin's price growth, and we are entering that kind of I'm going to say orgiastic phase of price speculation pretty soon. So we've been watching this nice horizontal trading range for Bitcoin here. I suspect we come back down to test this range, but LPSs sometimes don't. We've seen many times where an LPS does not perform in any short order. It just comes down once and goes out of the box. So it doesn't perform like a beautiful, nice accumulation range. Although, again, one of the things I suspect is because Bitcoin is in such strong hands now compared to it where it was previously, I think that this ends up being almost a perfect reaccumulation range before we go into new all-time highs. I think we get some cool off time here for the next little while, and final distribution and reaccumulation probably taking place here before the massive takeoff. So we've talked about this a few times. It's mostly the patience from this moment forward. But ultimately, what I think would be really nice is to see this longer reaccumulation range over the next few months, and maybe even past the halving to confuse people before running up into brand new all-time screaming highs, and where distribution will start shortly after. So we are well on our way into this bull market. Don't let anyone tell you how the bull market hasn't started. The bull market actually started way back here in November of 2022. Since then, Bitcoin is up 400% across the board pretty much. No matter what you look at, you're up significantly since November. The bull market doesn't start at the top of the market. It starts at the bottom of the market. And that's important to remember. There are a few key indicators for that. Usually some type of spring, fear event, blood in the streets, panic, all sorts of things usually lead to people buying more assets because they understand the idea of buying when there's blood in the streets. Ethereum up only 290%, whereas Bitcoin is up 350, 360%. So Bitcoin is still clearly outperforming Ethereum, but not other assets like Fetch, clearly, which just had a 36 to 50x in a year, which is incredible. Avalanche, one of our longtime favorites here, been a bit slow in this reaccumulation range here, but again, just proving the confidence level here. I believe we're in the final backup phase, so let's mark this out. We're in the final SOS / backup phase for Avalanche before we move to around $80 to $120. Oh yeah, SOS and backup in progress. I did have it drawn up here. I suspect that we find a little bit of range time between this trading range before continuing up to finalize some of the last movements of this bull market cycle in the coming months. Now, again, a lot of people are like, oh my God, why would you want to sell ever before the beginning of the movement is? And it's more trying to indicate to you how the bigger players see this. The bigger players accumulated most of their Bitcoin down near the bottom. Although they are still accumulating now, it's really largely to draw the market price up and use the asset's price as a marketing function. The higher the market goes, the more people want to buy it, and the easier it is for them to then sell it. And that's how this has always worked. I have never seen a chart that doesn't in some way exhibit either the accumulation or distribution schematics of Wyckoff and then follow that systematically. Again, the only way I think we'll see that depart from the norm is if we exist through a hyperinflationary moment in the next 10 years, which could be coming. But again, because we are in such no man's land with the deflationary pressures of excess death and what the fuck it means to have an artificial intelligence that is more intelligent than all of human intelligence combined. Like, we just don't know what that means. We don't, like, do we all of a sudden have infinite energy because this thing is like, hey, by the way, guys, you can fly to Mars by manipulating gravity, and there's some things you don't know about the universe which we can help you understand. Like, we don't really know. And because of that, it actually sits off in the corner as a type of black swan, which is we don't know what it means if you have a computer that is smarter than literally everybody on the planet combined. So something to keep an eye on. It could be so deflationary that it makes all money worthless. I've speculated about this in the past, that one of the reasons why people need money as a storage device, or why we need batteries as a storage device, is because we do not know yet how to create infinite energy. If we did, the need to store things like work into the future would reduce dramatically. We wouldn't need the same level of like a battery, which is kind of what money is. It's kind of like a battery. Leverage is kind of like a capacitor. Currency is more like a wire, or the current, I guess, running through the wire, losing its value as it goes because of resistance or whatever it might be. So I think the best way to look at a monetary system is almost similar to comparing it to an electrical system. So currency worthless in comparison with Bitcoin as a money. But if you have infinite energy, what value does money or batteries have anymore? Nobody wants a battery if you can just produce infinite energy from a box that I can fit in my garage or something. So something to keep an eye on, or at least your mind open to, is what a black swan 10 years from now might look like if AGI is actually a true sentiment. Solana also appearing in its final backup stages. I believe this is also a reaccumulation after decline. I think that this is kind of the last gasp for a few of these before we see a market correction, reaccumulation, and then the kind of extraordinarily high prices that everyone gets drawn back into, wishing, oh my God, why did I take profits? I'm so silly for taking profits. And maybe it only stays up there for like a month or two, maybe less time, before we come screaming back down. I think by this point, Bitcoin will be at like 150 to 200,000, and it will come back down to create a new floor for Bitcoin between $80,000 to $100,000. I believe the future price of the bottom of Bitcoin is somewhere around $80,000 to $100,000. So we are basically at the bottom of the future price of Bitcoin today. I don't know if we'll ever come back down this low, but this is probably about the bottom for the future of Bitcoin's price. So something to keep in mind. This is the kind of the last step of accumulation before we go into massive markup. I wanted to look at the S&P 500 again today because it is up another 3 points. It's just the kind of the fictional story tale we have to tell ourselves to believe that asset prices are actually worth more versus the US dollar is worthless, and therefore asset prices are one of the only ways you can actually store value. For a long time, people are like, oh, look how much money I made off asset prices going up versus, oh, wow, look how much money I saved because the US dollar is worthless and now my asset is the only place to store some type of value. So it's a great way to think about that. Bitcoin is still the predominantly most likely to receive the benefits of a collapse in a dollar and the trust and faith and confidence in the governments, again, barring any future black swans of the unforeseeable infinite technology that an AI could generate if it's smarter than us. So I know one of those, or aliens might do it too, or maybe the AGI is alien that's infected the human brain to get it to constantly try to create more technology by making it addicted so that humans, just like any other parasite, are basically feeding the thing that it wants to be created. Technology could be an alien, who knows? I'm not really sure, but it's not a bad argument nonetheless. So the S&P 500 still just like pushing into new highs, up almost 3.4%, which is massive for the S&P on the week, still following this rising channel here. I do suspect that we break below this rising channel and have a backup phase at some point. And I do believe that the downside for all of this market will currently coincide with the downside of the S&P 500. So this beautiful rising channel here on top of this multi-week or multi-month reaccumulation that ends up into a backup phase. At one point, it's gone higher than we thought it would, with basically no breathing. I mean, for the S&P 500 from, let's just say from October, this is another great example, basically buy when there's blood in the streets. So from October 7th onwards, we're up 20% in the S&P 500, which is crazy. That's so crazy. Most of this is probably being moved by the AI sector. There's probably a lot of dead companies in there, but nonetheless, huge growth in the S&P 500. Kind of lastly here, as we prepare to sign off, the dollar, actually looking, again, I suspect that this is a distributional event. I don't suspect that this is reaccumulation, although it could turn out to be. We're going to want to break through this, but until we break through this, I suspect we're coming down to retest. You'll see failures in other currencies once we retest, and then other currencies will start to move back to the US dollar. It's more noticeable if you live outside of the US. If you live in places like Canada, the costs of goods are going so much higher because of the weakness of the US dollar to some degree, or the strength of what appears to be your local currency versus the US dollar. This is something very similar that's happening here in Costa Rica. For instance, the Costa Rican colone, which is the local currency here, was normally pegged to the US dollar around 600 colones to the dollar. I'm just going to rip over to the chart here. So here's the Costa Rican colone to US dollar on the last 10 years. As we can see, we had a low of around 2022, which is during basically the start of the interest rates. Since the start of the interest rates have increased in the United States, the colone has shot up in value versus the US dollar, which makes import and export extraordinarily difficult for these countries. It makes the cost of things in this country go up significantly because of the strength of the colone. No one really cares what the fuck the colone is doing. So if you have a strong internal dollar, it doesn't make much sense. I do suspect that in the very near future, these countries will start to reduce interest rates first. They'll also start to increase printing first. During that process, you will start to see a lot of that go back to the US dollar and kind of a reformatting of what this means in the future. But for now, we're at new highs for third world currency, basically, versus the US dollar. I suspect that will all change in the future. So I'm just going to quickly roll over. We're 33 minutes in. We'll take a look at some of the thoughts and questions. Oh, nice. Tom Crown. Great to see you in the chat. Love your content, my brother. We'll have to jam out soon. I appreciate that. Brent says, I think 80 to 150K on the low end. Everyone thought we would get to 100K last time, and everyone thought 100K was the low end. I remember seeing videos of Bitcoin's going to go to 300 grand. It didn't get anywhere near that. each of these cycles we've seen a reduced price or percentage growth to the upside. So I don't know why all of a sudden we think that it's going to exceed that unless there was some type of massive inflationary event. I see you asked me to look at Doge and Shrapnel. We will take a look at that. Jordan Cuddy says, hi, OTO. Would you mind looking at the chart for AIOX network? It's a great AI play, but not sure if there's more upside or not. Also, how do you feel about the utility on Aerodome, on base, XRP? Other people stoked to see Tom in here as well. Tom, it's great to see you again. The bull market is here when our friendly content creators are here in the chat with us. So I'll just kind of finish off by taking a look at those the last few thoughts. I know you guys. I heard Doge come out there. Doge is an interesting one. Again, the idea that all currency is meme currency is actually a pretty good sentiment. I've argued this for a while myself. All currencies are memes to begin with, so why not assume that Dogecoin is a great meme currency? Wow, it's impressive here. Look at this, pretty nice reaccumulation range for the bottom of Dogecoin in itself is impressive. From the middle of the box to where we are, up 180%. Again, still not pacing Bitcoin, but if you were in short-term trades there, it's done well. Is there more room to go? Sure. There's a fair amount of resistance in this area. And based off the RSI at the moment, we are kind of starting to peak out on the daily, but we are just, again, entering the euphoria stage for this particular moment in the market cycle anyways. So there's probably more room for upside. But again, the fact that it's not pacing or exceeding Bitcoin's price why not just stay with Bitcoin effectively? There's a few we've made this assertion on, but for the most part, Avalanche, Solana, and Fetch are kind of three main drivers here, have all exceeded Bitcoin's price by around 500 to 600%, and Fetch close to 40 times higher, 45 times higher than Bitcoin's price movement. So not everything keeps up, not everything keeps up with Bitcoin, but also not everything outpaces it as well. So it's important to keep in mind that although Dogecoin might have room for upside, you could have just sat in Bitcoin and performed better. I don't think Dogecoin is going to get the extraordinary upcycle blowouts that we've had seen in the past. And remember, we'll take a look at the AI song here at the very end. For now, we'll add the last one to our kind of that you guys had asked, which was Shrapnel. Another game token. This is one of the games we decided not to invest in just because it was quite a bit more violent than what we would like. Not a whole lot of data here on. I can't really tell. I don't know what the background looks like. I think this is launch date, maybe November 23. Up 260% from launch. I would wait to see a bit more of an accumulation range form here. It's hard to tell. I would also focus on where the allocations of venture investments are coming, when their vesting schedules are unlocking effectively, because until we know that, there's a lot of hidden liquidity in the market. One of the reasons why Fetch was always so enticing is because the majority of the vesting schedule was already finished. 95% of the market's tokens were already public and circulating, so it made it a little bit easier. My voice is feeling a little tired though, so I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you guys all for joining us today. I'm going to end us off with our little AI song that we created about the mystical arcane bear and his Bitcoin knowledge. So this would be kind of a fun way to end the show. So let's see. Here we go. The Ballad of Arcane Bear, a folk storytelling song. So here we go. It says, I'll read the lyrics before we listen to it. It says, in the land where legends dwell, a tale unfolds of a creature both rare and bold, with fur black as night and eyes so wise, the arcane bear sight to misery. Not enough about Bitcoin in here. I was hoping there would be more. Oh yeah, here we go. Arcane's bear, guide us through the night with your wisdom and your insight. Bitcoin rise and fall. You're the one to know. Arcane bear, your analysis will show. So we're gonna listen to what our little folk song sounded like.
Where legends dwell, a tale unfolds of a creature both rare and bold. The fur's black as night and eyes so wide.
AI music.
Arcane bear, sight to mesmerize.
It's actually pretty fucking good.
Through the forest it rolls with grace and
Okay, and actually here, just for fun, they do give you two versions when you use Suno here. So we'll go back. We'll listen to the second version, the second ballad of Arcane Bear.
in the land where legends dwell.
Same lyrics, different vocals, it sounds like.
of a creature both rare and bold, with furs black as night and eyes so eyes, the arcane bear sight to mesmerize. Through the forest it roams with grace and might. Its steps are silent, its presence a delight. With every paw print secrets it uncovers, foretelling fortunes